So here's Zoom. I went to zoom.us. I logged in with my account, so you'll want to log in with yours. Remember to use your school account when you're setting up meetings for classes. Do not use your personal one. I'm going to click on my account. It's going to have my information. And then to start a new meeting, right, I can schedule a meeting. So I'm going to go to settings. Okay, so here is some things you want to look at. Right, do you want your video on as soon as you log in? Well, right, you can click that. Same with participants. Do you want to see them when they join, or do you want to let them choose? Do you only want telephone or only computer? It's best to stay with both. Now, I always uncheck this one, the join before host, because that means students can be in your Zoom room without you there, right? And so we don't let students in our classroom typically without us there, so we shouldn't let them in our virtual room without us there. Now, you can teach them how to create their own rooms. That way they're responsible for who joins. But if they're in your classroom, then you're responsible for them. I have enabled my personal ID. You can do this or not. It's kind of like your homeroom that you're always going to have that specific number. You might want to do it for like office hours, parent conferences. But I have mine on and then turned off for the default. So I don't use it as my default. Now this one, it's locked for my district, but it could be open for yours. If it's open for yours, use it. This means people have to sign in before they join your meeting. Definitely high schools use this, universities use this. BC is not, but if you have it available, you should consider doing that. Now, if you have younger students, well, requiring them to log on requires an adult to participate, and that could be a barrier. So you might consider keeping that off for younger. I embed my passwords, that way it's less for people to type in. You can always require a password for new meetings. Passwords are suggested to keep your meetings as safe as possible. I mute people on entry, that way it's not an abrupt distraction. So here we have encryption. So we have the default setting, Zoom requires encryption for all data types. Chat. Do you want to enable chat? I say yes, but I don't let them save the chat. Private chat, do I allow the students to chat with each other? If you don't want that to happen, you can turn that off. Sound notifications, well, that's kind of like if you're teaching a face-to-face, every time the door opens, right, everybody looks. So I turned that off for everybody, just for me and co-hosts. So then we hear a chime when someone comes in the virtual room. I allow file transfer. Again, this could be dependent on your specific class and age group. You might want to unshare that, especially if you haven't gone over digital citizenship and etiquette yet. I turn off feedback for Zoom, mainly because, again, that's storing personal information and I don't want to force my students to do that. I don't do an end of meeting survey either. I allow co-hosts. So this means if there's another teacher there or you're leading a meeting, two of you, right, the co-host can start the meeting. You can do polls. We'll go over a lot of these options, but I want to show you the basic settings. So then I allow whiteboard where students can write on the whiteboard. I allow sharing of screens, but again, think of your specific class. Are they ready for that? Have you taught them how to use that yet? I do not allow remote control. So only one person can control the screen at a time. This helps figure out who's doing the controlling, right? And you don't have to be, who did that, who wrote that, right? You'll know whoever had the screen. I allow nonverbal feedback. This is like the thumbs up, the clapping, the thumbs down. I allow different meetings, but that's just because I have meetings all the time. If you don't want your students to be distracted, then you'll probably want to click that off. That way they can only be in your meeting. I allow my students to rename themselves. And that's because, not all families have multiple devices. So if there's one device and 3 or 4 kids or 2 parents, taking classes, then they need to be able to rename themselves for different classes. And so I allow that. You might want to hide the profile picture, again, depending on your audience. And here we have a report to Zoom. Again, depending on your audience, right? You might have some people just reporting people out of nowhere unnecessarily, so you might want to turn that off. I allow breakout rooms, so I could split them up into smaller rooms. If you had a TA, maybe this could be an idea for the TA or assistant to take a couple students out, something like that for the younger students. All right. Mine closed captioning is automatic. Depending on your district, that might be set or not. Mine also has language interpretation. I allow virtual backgrounds. It can slow down the video and maybe heat up the computer a little bit, but it helps with the privacy of the background. The waiting room. So I use a waiting room, right? I don't allow students to join the room before me, and then I have them in a waiting room. This way, if I see someone on the list who either doesn't have a name, I can ask them to name themselves. Or if I see a name I'm not familiar with, I can ask them to rename themselves because maybe they forgot to switch between, right, the brother and sister. Live streaming, I do not use that. If you click it, right, YouTube, Facebook, all of those start to get connected. And so this is where your personal information might get shared to different settings. So I do not use that. Apps recording, I allow, so there's a snapshot if you don't want sensitive information that's trying to help you in that area. So I looked up the word phone because this has come up if students call in. I don't require a password for phones calls, but I do ask them to say their name because not all people remember to change their phone number, and you can't change your phone number if you're not using the app. So they say their name, and that way I know who's entering. And this is select certain regions. I don't click that because, right, our students could be anywhere. Then you can click to recording. You can do local recording, cloud recording. I run a lot of meetings outside of teaching, so I have to record meetings for that. I don't recommend recording in Zoom and then posting as your lecture unless you have to, just because the internet lag time isn't that great. Here for telephone, you want to mask people's phone numbers. So if someone calls in, you need this clicked, otherwise it's going to show the whole class a person's phone number. This is an important one to preserve privacy. So I've opened my Zoom app, and you can have your picture, right? You can do it from the web. I find it easier from here. I can click profile. I can edit my picture just like we've practiced in Canvas. You can go to virtual background, and you can see that I've created specific virtual backgrounds because sometimes I find the share screen to be distracting. Yeah, that was a toilet paper one. But you can create your own. I've also included like I'm a Trekkie, right? You can have, if you're talking about the aquarium. So you can do different settings also. And so this way you don't have to worry about the background. You can teach your students how to do this so they don't have to worry about their backgrounds. I created a lot of the bottom ones using Canva. So if you go to canva.com, you can just type in Zoom, and now it's already kind of been tailored, has the right settings. Now, Chromebooks is the only thing I've noticed a problem on. So if you have a Chromebook or an older, we're talking like pre-2000s computer, then these settings won't particularly work. But you can click a Zoom background, and it's going to show you all kinds of backgrounds, or you can create your own. So there you go. There you have it, kind of a breakdown of Zoom.